Before the 1964 presidential elections, hundreds of volunteers, white and black, traveled to Mississippi to help register black voters. It would later become known as Freedom Summer.
Blacks were legally able to vote, but in many places in the country, when they got to the polling place, they would be given tests on Chaucer, on arcane examples of 14th century English law, things that no one could possibly pass.
In Alabama, in Georgia, in Mississippi, you had to pass a so-called literacy test. On one occasion, a man was asked to give the number of bubbles in a bar of soap.
Despite the efforts of civil rights workers, not enough new black voters are registered to have an impact on the presidential election. At the same time, many Southern white Democrats are leaving the party because of Johnson's strong support of civil rights.
Johnson's opponent would be Senator Barry Goldwater of Arizona. Goldwater said, I'm not against civil rights, but I think this bill, the Civil Rights Bill, is unconstitutional. People got the message, especially in the white South, and Johnson was agonized to see that in his home region, very quickly in the polls, Goldwater was getting about 80% to Johnson's 20%.
Johnson wins the election by a landslide, but it's clear he's lost voters in the South, a fact noted by black leaders.
Martin Luther King Jr., he had a conversation with President Johnson, and he said, we need a voting rights act.
Johnson says, well, I'm for voting rights, but this ain't the time.
But civil rights leaders don't want to wait. In the spring of 1965, they pressured Johnson to act, staging a nonviolent march in the little-known town of Selma, Alabama.
In Selma, Alabama, in 1965, only 2.1% of blacks of voting age were registered to vote. So on Sunday, March 7, 1965, about 600 of us held a nonviolent workshop. We lined up in twos to walk from Selma to Montgomery to dramatize to the nation that people of color wanted to register to vote. We came to the apex of the Edmund Pettus Bridge, crossing the Alabama River. On the other side, you saw a sea of blue, Alabama state troopers.
Advance toward the group. See that they turn around and disperse.
You saw these men putting on their gas. They came toward us. Beating us with nightsticks and bullwhips, trampling us with horses, releasing the tear gas.
A lot of white Americans were on the fence on civil rights. Then they saw those pictures on television from Selma. That was something new and horrible. It converted a lot of Americans.
Johnson clearly saw that march as something that would help him get the Voting Rights Act passed.